So let's say that you uh, withhold belief or suspend belief in Jesus, Yeshua, Ishwa, or Jesus Christ, whoever you call him. Let's say you suspend your belief in Christ as a last resort, and until everything else is proven wrong, and there's no other way or no other. It's the last resort. It's the last. Nothing else works. Like, okay, you know what I mean? Let's find out, and you do a proof check, and you find out that the best way to know, since everything is written, right, not experienced, which is like a secondary quality as far as being a surety. You'll never reach 100%. You'll always be 99.99%, because you're looking at words written down as a secondary reference point. You can imagine that there's just a weird one-off possibility that somebody larped on paper. So you go to historians that lived around the time of Christ, and you find one that is like hated Jesus, right? Or mocked him, right? And referred to him in a way that mentioning his followers, or something like he wanted to show irreverence to the followers of Jesus Christ. Well, that's very useful, because this is a person that's been referred to by historians as speaking with direct reference to the belief that Christ exists. And then you get a word like tacit confession, which his name is Tacitus. And I have to wonder if lexicon was derived from the contributor Tacitus to mean that a tacit confession is something that when people admit to something that they candidly or somehow inadvertently lend to their acknowledgement of something without trying to come out and tell you exactly what it is. And if it is about whether or not you believe something without any reasonable lending to like evidence or proof, and you just can make up your own beliefs and it's not a real belief, making you some kind of a jackass, and you want to avoid that, right? Then this issue, it only concerns you and the people listening. The people, I'm not listening, but looking. If you're not looking, there are people that are just background noise. If I don't know what their problem is, if they don't like that there is a reference because they are afraid that it might galvanize a portion of the society that they just don't like, or maybe they have cognitive dissonance, or believe something about their ability to take the namesake and false piety and like false and like holier than thou, and like set up a like Aristotle geometry occult like symbolism, new age riff on something, or you don't want to see that happen again, you don't like that experience. When people are galvanized behind Christ, they think that everybody else is wrong, and or whatever, it's like, it's not about, that doesn't even exist, as much as you can't get 100% proof from paper, from writing. So forgive me for looking for 99.9%, but you shouldn't be talking if I even held back, suspended my belief for anything else that works, for anything else that might be true or might take precedence above that. Then it was just a last resort. So the word tacit confession is like lexicon, right? I'm not saying it is etymologically sound. It's not consistent to say that etymology is going to work. But Tacitus, or graffiti that was like mocking Christ with the head of a donkey, or shit like that. It's like you wonder how you can detect whether or not people have no reason to lie, because psychology. It's like I'm still only 99.99% sure of the existence of the personage. And I'm not willing to discredit figures in history because they hated Jesus. I'm not discrediting their tacit confessions. So we don't look for confessors or way finders, or like dream interpreters, diviners, soothsayers, because you don't need it anymore. You're going off of a faculty that is imbued, and then you hear that your belief is always going to be contested and whatnot. So you end up just feeling empathy for anybody who just as easily I could have just as easily come out like that, like them. You just feel like empathy for, I could have just as easily been, you know what I mean? But I'm not saying that I believe 100% sure this is, I'm saying that, you know what I mean? It's the quality of your proof. If the best quality is lived life experience, the second best is the written word. And then so you can cross-reference and point out things that are there to that maybe didn't intend to create more people to believe. Like maybe that wasn't their intention, but why were they doing it? Because at their time they weren't motivated by disavowing their acknowledged that they knew who existed. So it wasn't the point for them to say like, I don't even know who that guy is. It wasn't their, they weren't. There's just going to be some people that's going to say that's mean, because he cross-referenced historians and you found what would be proof that goes against the argument for he didn't exist, and you only believe that because you want to. Now there are some people that could be motivated to believe because of another reason, like they believe because they prefer to believe, and that's fine, because what they actually interpret as coming out of that is the type of character or the type of the way that they want to try to do procreate and all that stuff. If they accomplish that end, then who is to want to argue that something that would be a triviality, a trivial test? Because you could say only God can judge me, right? So then God must be able to test me too. If anything, if nothing else. So why do you believe? How do you believe in stuff without proof? They can go on all day. You're just going to have to be at some point just going to be like, well, I don't know, but it feels like it sits with me this way, my spirit. I can just sense it in my spirit, and it just fits. And they'd be like, oh, you don't know. The Bible contradicts itself. But see, if I don't know that Tacitus existed, maybe you don't really know if the Bible's contradicting because it's misinterpreted. I could point to things right now that I can't interpret. So do I have no right to believe because there's things that I can't interpret? Well, there's things that I don't have authority to declare, declare, Doesn't mean he doesn't exist. It doesn't mean I'm the greatest believer. I'm just saying I told you, I'm the worst believer. I'm the one that held out belief to any, I wanted to resist belief as long as possible, except that I have a standard for proof or evidence. And a lot of people that might be the buzzword. They might be talking about proof and evidence. Doesn't mean they give a fuck about proof and evidence. So I guess that just remains to be seen after everybody died. Somebody can come around and read about them, but then they don't know. Like they're actually not authorized to know because it's media. They didn't live it. You would only know what you lived most intimately, what you actually experienced. You get away with knowing that. You know what I mean? But somebody who comes along and reads and just reads a lot and just, that's like, are they wrong? It's like, isn't that supposed to be the thing to do? Like LeBron James, and you go crazy in the library,